Welcome back, everybody. It is end of semester 2024, and ADHD parents around the globe are freaking out a little bit. I have several parenting clients who are like, what do I do? Not to fret, there's actually a lot we can do in the next few weeks that can set our children up for success. So first we're going to cover why our children struggle, and then we'll get into some tips that we can do before and then during the test. My name is Danielle Kelly, and I am not just a parenting coach. I am also on this parenting journey with you in the ADHD roller coaster. So first, let's get into why it's hard for our children to take these tests. ADHD hijacks our executive function. What does that mean? That means that we have a hard time focusing, of course, but we also have a hard time following directions. We have a hard time organizing materials, and we are terrible at time management. So if a teacher says you have 30 minutes to do this passage, for 22 minutes, we are distracted by something shiny. And for the other 8 minutes, we are rushing through trying to get this thing done, which then leads us to make careless mistakes, right? So what can we do? Before the test, I highly recommend that you reach out to your child's teacher and ask for some practice tests and the formatting of that so that you guys can go over at home exactly what's going to happen, and you can put the next tips in there so that you can set them up for success. I am sure that they are practicing these tests at school, but at home with a little bit more guidance, they may be a little bit better prepared. There are accommodations that we can ask for. We'll go over those during, but these are typically things that are set up in a 504 plan. It is too late in the year for us to request one now, but if you are panicked at this point in time about testing, or if you're like my family and it is our first year doing integrate, the big integrate test, then next year you may want to go ahead and reach out to the school and ask for those 504 accommodations. The week leading up to the test, we're going to make sure our children are sleeping 10 hours a night. Yes, I know that sounds crazy for an ADHD child, but they need that sleep. Their little brains are super powered and they're going so fast, and they're going to need to reset and recharge before we take these tests. In that same week, we're going to make sure that they get as much nutrition as possible, protein, vitamins, and nutrients. I know that's hard. We have some picky eaters around here, but it is essential for them to get all of that brain fuel leading up to the test. In that same token, we're going to want to make sure they get a ton of exercise, and not just the week before. Even though the week before, I highly recommend a few hours every day after homework, outside activities. But the morning of, you might want to wake your kiddo up a little bit early and just chase them around the house for 20 or 30 minutes and get all of that energy out so that they can actually attempt to sit still for 3 hours to take the test. But not only are we releasing that energy, we're releasing those good endorphins to get them in a better mood so that they feel confident going in. Lastly, if your child takes medication, of course, you're going to want to remember that morning of. But if your child is not on medication, you might want to look into saffron, and it would work day of if you have not been using it thus far. We have found a lot of success in saffron for hyperactivity, impulsivity, and anxiety. I'll put a link in the description with what we use, but any brand of saffron will work. Now, let's get into those accommodations that we talked about earlier. This is what we can do during the test. We can definitely request headphones so that we can be a little bit more in our zone. Boring seating. This means sitting next to no one entertaining at all. Maybe facing a wall. I know that seems crazy, but if someone sneezes or drops a pencil, my son has to take a few minutes to reset. And that's really hard in the middle of a 45-minute passage to figure out where we were, what was happening, and to come back. So if that's not an option, you may want to ask for small group testing. This could look like a few peers in a group instead of the whole class. Lastly, I highly recommend a fidget. This could be something textured just for this hand to keep going so that we can still get our wiggles out and our sensory going, but this hand is still focused on our work and our brain is still intact. Sometimes my kid finds that his hands need to be busy, but his mind is still focused. Mind is in the room, mind is on task. But these hands, they just gotta be going. There are a ton of little sensory keychains out there that you can find. I'll link some in the comments if you need them. It's just a little texture to keep your fingers going so that we can stay busy, but also stay busy. Next up, we're gonna work on what we'll do with those practice tests. We want to train our children to look it over. Look it over in the beginning for title, characters, setting, anything of importance that might come up later. We want to know that, and we're going to highlight it. We're going to break it down into sections. For us, this looks like reading over all of the questions beforehand so that we know what information we're looking for. But we're going to read until we can answer that first question. It's hard, but breaking it down in chunks definitely breaks up that 45-minute passage. In that same token, I have tried to express to my child literally every day, there are 4 answers. 2 of them are going to be off the wall. They're going to make no sense. But 2 of them are going to be very, very close and possibly both even be right. But the test asks, pick the best selection. So if our little go-getters are trying to be done, and let's face it, they all are, ADHD or not, and A comes up and we read question or selection A and it fits, but it's not the best option. D was actually the best option. They're going to count that off. So I know our children are literally dying to be done, but we have to read over, especially all of the options on the questions, because like I said, 2 are going to be very similar, but only 1 counts. So that's included in breaking it down. And before we hand the thing in, look it over again, please. We can find so many of those careless mistakes if we just take a few seconds and look it over, make sure that we're getting all the credit that we deserve, because we worked so hard this year to get those points. We need them, right? If you guys have any tips for me, please drop them in the comments. I am, again, an ADHD parent as well as an ADHD woman, so anything that is of value, please pass it on. I am here on this channel passing along all of the knowledge that I have found. I'm actually the mom that found patience, the meditated mama. I know that is a huge challenge in ADHD parenting. I did not come by it easy. I have been training for 6 years in positive, mindful, and conscious parenting. Last year, I finished up behavioral parent therapy to train me to be a better ADHD parent. And on this channel, I share all of that information with you. Everything I've learned so far, strategies, techniques, skills, tips, tricks, and secrets, everything I've got. So subscribe, come back. I'll see you here twice a week, every week. Good luck on testing, guys.